Anita always has. When I'm gone, she'll have the truck detailed. If I'm away at work, traveling, and I came back and the truck was nice and clean. I thought, well, that's nice. The wife has looked after this again, and I got in it and I drove it actually for nearly 2 weeks, and before I realized it was a new truck. Yeah.
Another episode of Meronk to Heaven. This is a LIV Golf podcast with your host, myself, Sue and Heng, and of course, the one and only Jerry Foltz, who is an integral part of this podcast. He is the smartest man on our broadcast team. And yes, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for.
You've been hitting the bottle early, or what? Have you been hitting the bottle at 8 a.m.?
I think that's the
smartest man on our broadcast team.
Correct. Yes.
You're giving me cavities here. Holy shit. That's so sweet.
Yeah. No. I mean, look, the final 2 weeks of every season so far on our LIV Golf League, I often find myself, not that it's the only final 2 weeks, but every time in the last 3 seasons, I just go, fuck me. He is good. He's good. Like you having to do all the mathematics on the fly and the points and who's in the drop zone, who's in the lock zone. By the way, for those you people who watch and are criticizing, and it's a lot of math. There's a lot of mathematics and a lot of scenarios that can happen during the final 2 weeks of mainly the final week of the individual championship.
It's addition, subtraction, and sometimes a little bit of division. I mean, Casey can do it. Your 3.5-year-old. It's not hard.
No, it is hard, but have to do it on the fly is hard.
The hard part is you have to be right when you say it. That's the hard part, because every time you're doing this in your head and you're looking at the numbers and you know you got it, and then you have that little moment of hesitancy because you have to go with it, because I'm going to have it in my head before we get it officially from somebody else who has to, double and triple check. And you have that moment of doubt. And then as soon as you're done talking, you're like, God, I hope I got that right. Because it's just horrible if you didn't. But
then also it gets to a point when you're like, well, it's already out there. What can you do about it?
Yeah. Maybe, haven't got it wrong yet, but you never know.
That's why I'm saying you're the smartest man for our team. So smart.
Not exactly the highest bar.
That's also true. I won't try and fight you on that. That is factual. But anyway, some things happened in the golf world this week. Let's kick it off with our segment, Shotgun Starts. Tyrrell Hatton came in second. This was at the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship, which is obviously a DP World Tour event. He was so close to making it 2 in a row. God, he's playing some good golf.
He has. He's played great golf all year. He really has. Obviously, just the one win within our circuit, our LIV Golf League, but he's played great golf all year long. It's not easy to win on LIV. We document that all the time. There's only 13 individual titles per year, plus a season-long title. Right. So I guess 14 that Jon Rahm ended up getting that. It's just hard to win. He won one time, but he was there a whole lot. And once he got that driver straightened out, it was all over.
Yeah, I think he was kind of playing around with a different shaft, different driver head for a while at the start of the season, and then obviously found one that just clicked. And it's working out really well. He is headed to Dubai this week for the DP World Tour Championship. Jon Rahm was eligible, but he is electing to skip that. Joaquin and Adrian Meronk also playing in the field. I don't blame Jon Rahm, man. I mean, he's had a busy schedule in Spain. He just turned 30, by the way. Happy birthday to Rambo. But he's also, people forget he's got a newborn in his household. So that is the biggest part he's going home for.
When I read that he skipped in our notes, I didn't double check. Has he played enough events to be a member of the European Tour still? So he'd be eligible for the Ryder Cup. I think he has. I think he did that right after I had a baby, actually.
Right.
I think he needed to play 3 or 4 more times. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. They're going to pick the 12 best anyway. I know Keegan Bradley will, because the powers that be that have tried to stifle our progress, they don't have any control over the American team for the Ryder Cup. They do actually have a little bit of control over the European team, which is really strange because of the partnership between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. So we'll see. I think that's a harder nut to crack than Keegan Bradley saying, I'm picking the 12 best guys. I don't care where they play.
I really hope by then, things would have settled down. Who knows? Maybe after the showdown, things might.
We said that a year ago.
I know, but as we know, a year makes a huge difference, as we've seen. Anyways, for the sake of our golf fans, as well as for us who are, who love watching the best players in the world compete, especially in an event like Ryder Cup, we are going to keep our fingers, toes, and everything else crossed.
Yes.
Speaking of Meronk, there was a nice feature on him on the Golf Digest. And I know he said this on our podcast, that he knows that he did the right thing in terms of his move over to LIV Golf. And I know we spoke to him on the podcast, and he talked about how much more satisfied, or I guess not as lonely, maybe happier to a certain extent, when he moved over to LIV and realized the atmosphere is awesome. The team aspect is awesome. He's really embraced all that. And I spoke to him privately too. When I see him on the driving range, he seems like he's really in a good place and he's happy.
Yeah. He reiterated the thing just about every player within LIV has said, which is, I've worked so hard and I don't get time to enjoy my life. I don't get time to enjoy the success. And obviously money was a key factor, that you can't deny that. And he admitted that. But he wanted to be able to still have a life away from golf. And also he said because he was a brand new member of the PGA Tour when he decided to join LIV after being snubbed by Luke Donald for the Ryder Cup. And he said, the PGA Tour is a lonely place for him. He's not one of those guys that's hanging out and he's a really nice guy, but he's not one of those guys that feels the need to be friends with everybody unless he is friends with them. And he said it was very lonely for him. And that, professional golf at the highest level can be very lonely. At the lower levels, everybody's, they got the common bond. They're usually staying at the same hotels. They hang out together. They're in the same basic tax bracket as well. They travel together. They room together.
They split rooms. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's a lot tighter than at the PGA Tour level, because that's 144 different corporations competing each week. They all have their teams. They all have, all these people around them, and that's new to the professional golf scene as compared to my generation, where that wasn't the case. Your swing coach was Jack or Jim, Jack Daniels or Jim Beam.
Anyways, Cam Smith and Lucas Herbert playing in the New South Wales Open in Australia this weekend. Good luck to the Ripper boys. Dom will be happy for this mention. Hong Kong Open is happening next week. We've got some LIV players playing at the Hong Kong Golf Club, which is, in Dom's word, the best golf course on the planet, with the iconic 18th hole. Yes, the most iconic hole position on the 18th green.
The most iconic approach shot of an 18th hole anywhere in the world.
Yes. Dom's so proud to have a LIV event in Hong Kong, especially at his home club, Hong Kong Golf Club, where he frequents apparently the balcony multiple weekends for multiple years and has put away multiple drinks.
He has.
Yes, some big names announced to play at the Hong Kong Golf Club. Martin Keimer, Patrick Reed, Justin Rose is staying up there. Tom Kim is also staying up there. I like that place, man. I love that place, actually.
It was cool.
That golf course is so awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great golf course. And I'm not saying this because I love Dom and he's my brother, but it's a golf course that's not long. It's short, but you gotta be so creative. You gotta be so precise with what you're trying to do. You gotta know exactly what you want to do, and you can't afford to like doubt yourself, because when you doubt yourself, you're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah,
I know every golf course has that, but more so at this place, right?
It was old school golf. We saw some, relatively long hitters play well there. Even Bryson performed pretty well. But you have Abe Answer winning in a playoff over Paul Casey, two of the most accurate guys in the entire world. And of course, Cam Smith in that playoff as well. And Cam doesn't need to be as accurate as everybody else because he can hit it anywhere and still make par or sometimes birdie. He's just a magician around the greens and on the greens. But it's just, I love old school golf. I mean, you don't have to hit 350-yard drives to play great golf on a course like that. You have to be able to do the most important thing, and that is figure out a way to get the ball from point A to point B the most efficiently. And there, it like you said, requires extreme precision. Really cool. It's just so damn hot. Just like Singapore. It
was not hot. No, it was not hot in Hong Kong. We were freezing,
it was chilly, actually. Yeah.
Forgot. It was cold.
Well, there's certain times
we only played in two. This year we played in two locations that were below 90 degrees. We played in Vegas. That was
freezing cold.
Freezing cold.
Freezing cold.
The week of the Super Bowl. And then we played in Hong Kong. That was cold, and it was rainy. It was gloomy, but it was cold. It was really cold.
I didn't seem
I know
cold
you
to
were
me.
like nice and cozy in the booth.
Yeah, with my blanket.
Yeah. With your blanket and all. Yeah. And a binky too while you're at it.
It's a beer binky.
Beer binky. Let's see what else happened. I hope I said this guy. I hope I'm gonna say his name right. Austin Eckroat.
Very good.
Wins at Tigers El Cardinal. That golf club. Where is it? In Mexico, right?
Cabo. It's in Cabo.
Cabo.
It looked gorgeous. It doesn't look like a tough course, but the players say it's tough. It didn't look tough. It just really windy. It's Cabo. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's awesome.
Yeah. Your happy place is Mexico.
Yes.
Well, specifically the resort. Yeah, Maricopa. Let's see. Congratulations also to Steve Alker, who wins the season-long title on the Check-ins Tour.
Yes.
But let's see what I'm reading this as a script. If it's not obvious enough.
67-year-old Bernhard Langer has now won in every season he's ever played on the Champions Tour. Every record he sets, he's breaking his own. And the oldest guy to win, obviously, the guy who's won the most, 67 years old. He's won every single season, and that's after having Achilles surgery earlier this year. That's incredible. But Stephen Alker, I mean, a journeyman his entire career. That's a beautiful thing about golf. A beautiful thing about PGA Tour champions. Yes, I'm giving them a compliment. Is that those guys get to go out and have a second lease on life. Absolutely, it's been fantastic for a great many years. And even though it's very much a closed shop in terms of access to it, there's still those occasional success stories of guys like Stephen Alker who go out and do something like that. It was just really cool to see, and he's a great dude.
Yeah. I will admit I'm still on vacation. So, almost zero prep for this podcast.
Shocking.
So,
that's like normal.
Just winging it. Just
normal.
Excuse me, speak for yourself too. What's not normal is the fact that you have not cracked open your very first beer.
It's coming.
For those of you who might not know Jerry Foltz, it's getting close. Jerry Foltz does not drink water.
Nope.
He only drinks Diet Coke and Bud Light or Miller Lite. That's all he drinks.
Yes.
Or Coors Light. Any of the light beers. Yeah.
But you do know the one thing they all have in common: water, beer, and Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi. Water is the number one ingredient. So I drink a lot of bottled water and a lot of canned water. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, but as my son likes to call it, he calls it bubbly water.
Bubbly water.
Bubbly water. You drink a lot of bubbly water, just with different contents.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of contents. Yeah. Hey, we have a very new segment this week that our producers put together. Listen, the internet is a phenomenal place in terms of information gathering, etc. Great to keep in touch with your friends. It's made the world a lot smaller, but it is toxic. It is evil. It is, let's see, what's the word for it? It's harsh. And, some people can just be mean. It's also a platform for people to be mean, unfortunately. So we're going to take the opportunity to have a little fun with it, because why not? If you can't laugh at life, what is the point? So we're going to call this segment From the Rough. Jerry, you're gonna kick it off with one of the comments about you.
I am, and I do enjoy mean people on the social media under two conditions. They're willing to have a civil discourse, which most aren't, because that takes away the fun for many of them. And secondly, it goes a long way with me if their name is on their account. Not that I know them, they're still random people to me, right. But it goes a long way to me if their name is on their account. Most of the mean people on the Twitter don't have their name on their account. But yes, this from Blue Nugget fan, who will not be on my Christmas list. Foltz is delusional in reference to a rant, I guess it was a rant on the rise of the international series, something that even Adrian Meronk just stated in that Golf Digest article you cited was one of the impetus for, maybe we just split up, let the PGA Tour do their thing, and the rest of the world play a global tour that includes LIV. He said because the Asian Tour has shown so much growth, that might be the base of it, or it might be a combined thing with other international tours. Who knows if that ever happens? That'd be really cool for the rest of the world. But Blue Nugget fan, I am delusional in so many things in life, but I will beg to differ
so many
the rise of the international series and the importance of it. Of course, you're going to agree with Blue Nugget fan. The guy's got blue nuggets. You know what blue nugget means, right? He's got blue balls. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
All right, your turn.
I guess now my turn to read some heat that I'm getting on this time. It's on Instagram by this guy. Actually used his real name, Matt_Harkins 1815. This is directed at moi. No one person cares, literally. Are you trying to be journalist in this scenario? This is in reference to asking Lee Westwood where he wants to be in 10 years. First of all, I don't know if the actual English is used correctly.
Bad grammar, bad punctuation. That's okay. It's social media. Yeah. At least he has his name on it.
It is it? And maybe he's yes, exactly. So does that mean we should take him seriously? No, it means
he's not a Lee Westwood fan, and he doesn't like that you actually asked a legitimate question. But you know what? He listened to the podcast. So thanks for that, Matt. Yeah.
Exactly. No, yeah, really. Thank you, Matt, for tuning in to Heaven. And I'm sorry you don't like Lee, but he's a great golfer. And look, it was a legit question. All right. Well, Jerry, you got one more.
Yeah, not all of social media is mean. Some is just flat out delusional. And I have one here from Diane Mayer, 7197. And it says, I love this podcast. I would say, Jerry, you are a hottie, from our most recent full YouTube video. Well, I do strongly in the day drinking divorcee demographic. I do very strongly in that demographic.
I just had a lovely breakfast this morning. I really just like, I don't need it. I don't need to taste it the second time on the way out. Do you understand? Like, it's just, it's not, I don't know. What's her name?
Diane Mayer. Like 1.2 million followers.
Diane, I mean, you really, you don't have to be kind to Jerry. You know that, right? We'll get it. Like, it's just like, you don't have to make him feel better. He's very comfortable being the old fart who's overheated his hair.
Old hottie. Yes.
No. No. By the way, some of the heat that I've been getting on Twitter, which I think is quite funny, are the X's. People have been getting it's on YouTube on the comments, and people just really have they have a grudge about my tattoos. They just that I don't know. They just go. So I don't know if it's one person or it's two people or if it's multiple. My God, that's strange tattoos. Accept her tattoos. Like someone would say something nice and they'll reply and like accept her tattoos. I don't know. I don't understand it. Listen, they're for me.
It's body art. It's a form of expression. It's deeply
Yeah.
personal for most who get them. Absolutely. I have no problem with them. I don't know. I have only problem I have with them is I have a problem with people who have a problem with them. It's what makes you you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like why?
How many are we up to now?
27?
27.
Yeah, they're all small.
Wow. You're not a big girl.
27.
You're going to run out of canvas.
And this was Dom's best line this year. I think on the broadcast, he goes, I only see 10 live on air. But anyway, keep those tweets coming, please. This is our new segment on the rough. From the rough. I can't even get our segment right. Mean or nice. Yes, keep those comments coming both on YouTube, DX, Instagram, any of those platforms will be much appreciated. We need all the content that we can possibly get from you. And
and thanks to Diane Mayer, my new hero. Thank you. Karen just walked in. She has no idea what I'm talking about.
You know what bothers me too is that our producers didn't put in anything complimentary about me. Maybe there wasn't any. I'm not
there's
sure.
plenty. You have a shit ton of fans out there. But it would appear sexist if they did it for you. That's because that would just be wrong. I'm a hottie.
But Jerry, you're a hottie.
I'm not middle-aged because I'm not going to live to be 124. I'm way past middle-aged hottie. Senior hottie.
Most weeks we have a very special guest. We haven't had a guest in the last couple of weeks because Foltz and I decided to have a little fun, just the both of us together on this podcast. But this week I'm super excited. He's a 5-time European Tour winner. He's also a member of the 1991 Ryder Cup team. He is a personality. And when I mean personality, he is a golf entertainment personality, a comedian. He is a super, super talented, our very own David Feherty.
There you go.
Well done, David.
There we are. How you doing?
Good. How are you, David?
Excellent.
Your hair's all cut off. You're growing out your beard. You look nice and relaxed in your home.
Yeah, I'm actually in my farm in East Texas. We're moving house, and Anita doesn't want me anywhere near the premises.
Smart girl. Smart girl.
And why is that? Why is that, dude?
Well, basically, they'd have to pack me up and move me, like a piece of furniture. If I were anywhere close. And I might have suggestions, which, wouldn't be appreciated.
Where is your farm?
Big mistake. Never interfere. Never interfere with a woman's
exactly.
Design, I guess, focus.
Where is the farm?
Yeah.
Sorry,
in
Jerry.
East Texas. Where are you in East Texas?
I am just outside of Athens, a little southeast of Dallas, about an hour.
Okay.
Hour and a half southeast. Yeah.
And when you say it's a farm, that usually implies there's animals or crops.
Yeah. Okay. It's a tree farm. Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you do what do you do in the off season, David? Because I mean, speaking of farm, Jerry typically likes to cut the grass. He does a lot of housework around the house. Are you that kind of a person, or quite the opposite?
No,
what have you been doing?
I'm an immovable object, basically. I sit around and watch TV, and I make the occasional rifle in my machine shop down here. I've been doing charity events for the last month or so. I think I've done 4 or 5 for people, including my own. And I got another couple coming up. But other than that, I'm basically, lazy fat
I
bastard.
disagree with that because you travel harder and more often than anybody I know. You just don't talk about it that much. But one of the one you had outside San Antonio had George Strait. That was a big one, right? That was yours, correct?
Yeah, George has done that for me for the last 14 years. We've had annual Troops First events down there. It's a golf tournament, an auction, and George puts on a concert, and it's amazing. You know, we raised nearly $2 million this year.
And then you also went to Sergio and his wife's charity as well. I think I saw a picture of you there.
Yes.
The Ugly Foundation, I think it was, right?
Yeah, so Angela and Sergio's foundation was in Austin, Texas. You know, I went and did some stand-up there.
You fly to Austin?
I should have, yeah. Because Interstate 35 from Dallas is a parking lot.
Speaking of charities and speaking of all the stuff that you've been dipping your hands into and you've been so busy, I'm actually in America right now, David, and I know Veterans Day was just
yesterday.
This Monday was yesterday, wasn't it? What's today? Tuesday. Yesterday, yeah. You're very active in the military veteran community. That's something that I've learned about you, I think, since I've got to know you and spent some time with you. Could you maybe tell us about some of the charity work that you've been doing with the military and the vets, and why that specific charity, why the vets and why the military?
Well, I went to Iraq and Afghanistan in 2008, 2009 to entertain the troops. And, you know, I tell people I went there an Irishman and I came back an American. You know, I immediately applied for American citizenship. I was so blown away by just the quality of the people that we had over there. These youngsters out, you know, fighting, you know, for each other, you know, and for us, you know, back here in America. And I was lucky enough, I was on a USO trip the first time to Iraq. And there was a guy on the trip called Rick Kell who had been working with kids from Walter Reed Hospital for a while. And he wanted somebody with, you know, a more public figure, someone who had, you know, access to the media to head up a foundation that he had an idea for called Troops First Foundation. So it became Feherty's Troops First Foundation. And, you know, I got involved with it, I think, back in either 2008 or 2009, became kind of the figurehead for that. And we've had various programs over the years. We had an incredibly successful program called Operation Proper Exit, where we took, and this is while we were still able to go to Afghanistan and Iraq, and we took the wounded back to the exact place that they got wounded, because quite often, you know, these kids, they're in a firefight 1 minute, and the next thing they know, they wake up from an induced coma at Walter Reed or Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. And, you know, there's just no dignity involved in, you know, they wake up with, and they're missing limbs or they're badly burned. And, you know, they don't see any of the doctors and nurses that saved them while they were in theater. They don't get to lead. The insurgent has a voice in making them leave. So we took them back to the place where they got wounded. We showed them the schools and the hospitals and the roads and the electricity and the water, you know, that they, you know, provided, you know, their presence there provided. You know, we see the kids playing in playgrounds, and they meet the doctors and the nurses. And this time, you know, when they come home, they, you know, walk up the ramp or wheel themselves up the ramp of the C-130, and they turn around and their whole unit is there to, you know, salute them. And the insurgent has no voice this time. You know, so that was one of our most successful programs. We took them over 4 or 5 at a time to do that. We supplied dogs. I think we supplied more than 100 dogs. We got an Operation Warrior call, which keeps them in touch with the guys that they fought with. And it's a suicide prevention thing. We have had, I think, 3 suicides, which is 3 too many, but it's been overall very successful in keeping them in communication with their battle buddies, if you like. So that's the kind of thing that we do. And I had lunch yesterday with about 30 of these vets, on Veterans Day, and it's just the best part of my life.
You're number one, and I say it to everybody when they ask me about Feherty. What's it like, working with Feherty? What's it like sitting next to him? What's it like being his friend? And I said, first off, the one thing you need to know more than anything, well, 2 things. He's the most loyal guy I know, and he also is the most patriotic American I've ever met in my life. And that rings true through all of your words. But you talk about the suicide prevention, and you don't answer your phone hardly ever. But I've been with you, even on the air sometimes, when you will drop your headset because you're getting a call from somebody who's going through a hard time and who might be contemplating that. And that's the one thing in your life that takes the highest priority, it seems like, is to help out people in need, especially those who are considering making a final act.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a depressive. I have bipolar disorder, and people will ask me, sometimes, if I identify with those feelings, and I do. And they ask me to describe depression. Depression is sadness minus hope, and you can live with a lot of things. You can live without money. You can live without love. You can't live without hope. I think it's the most important word in the English language. I lost a son a few years ago, to depression. It was a drug overdose, but it's the depression that leads to that. And that was the one thing that I couldn't give him, was hope. So it's no big deal to answer the phone for these guys, if they're just feeling blue. That can lead to something a lot more serious, so we try to keep things light, in the foundation. And, I poke fun at them, I tease them. And, people don't do that. When you're around someone who's physically challenged, or, is suffering from mental stress, people tend to they get wary around them, or nervous, or self-conscious. Someone wheels himself into a room in a wheelchair. Able-bodied people very often don't really know how to talk to them. I just treat them like normal human beings. I mean, I take the piss out of you and Sue Ann. Why wouldn't I do it with them? There's a dignity to that. And that's one of the things that is so important for anyone who's been wounded, or an amputee, or is the dignity that they lose with the limb. So we try our best, to give that back in any way that we can.
That is very beautifully cut, and thank you so much for, I guess, opening up here on podcast and sharing about all that stuff. I think, speaking to you and getting to know you through these last 2 to 3 seasons together as colleagues, I certainly have seen a side of you that's been so incredible. For me, I don't think you understand. When I realized that you're going to be part of our broadcast team, I freaked out more than anything else. I was just like, oh my gosh, David Feherty. I saw you as like this almost not godlike, but someone that I admired so much, and especially in the golf entertainment, but also what you've done in the game of golf back in your career. You've seen and done a lot, David. You've experienced a lot. You've been through a lot. What would be the one best advice that you could give to young people who might be listening to this and maybe going through a difficult time, or maybe they might be, wondering what they want to do with their lives. They might feel that sense of loss of hope, as you've alluded to. What would you say to them?
Everyone wants to be successful, Sue-Ann, and I had this show on the Golf Channel for 10 years where I interviewed very successful people, whether they were, musicians or actors or athletes or politicians or businessmen, and women. They all had one thing in common. In order to be as successful as they were, they wanted to be in a place where they knew they were going to be uncomfortable. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. Lean into it. Because you have to want that. Because that's the thing that's going to set you apart. From the unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people don't want the responsibility that comes with success. And to a certain extent, I had that throughout my career. I didn't want it enough, to win major championships. I got, close a couple of times, but, when I look back on my career, it was that, that held me back. I didn't think of myself as the sort of player that would do that. Or at least I didn't think enough of myself at that time. So I would say to any young person, lean into that uncomfort, and welcome it into your life, and that's how you'll get through any difficulty.
Yeah, that's some advice that I can take with me, and so can Foltzy.
You.
Foltzy
really
likes being uncomfortable.
I like making other people uncomfortable, though. You know that very well.
Yeah,
I'm world class.
Yeah.
You hear it from successful players in golf all the time, and I love the quote: "Pressure is a privilege," and that's what you're alluding to, isn't it? I want to change the subject a little bit, because I know we got really deep there for a while, and I want to ask a story that I didn't know, and I know a lot of your stories. I've been around you a fair bit through the years, including our time at NBC together on a few tournaments a year, and then earlier than that, when you were with CBS and I was doing Golf Channel coverage Thursdays and Fridays, you always were extremely welcoming to me on those times you weren't sleeping in Lance's office. But Sue-Ann told me a story recently I didn't know. Did your wife actually buy you a truck and you drove it for a week and didn't know it was a new truck?
Yeah. I've driven an F-150 Raptor for, I think this is the fourth one I've had in a row. And Anita always has, when I'm gone, she'll have the truck detailed. If I'm away at work, traveling, and I came back and the truck was nice and clean. I thought, well, that's nice. The wife has looked after this again, and I got in it and I drove it actually for nearly 2 weeks. And before I realized it was a new truck. Yeah.
Oh, but it was hilarious. And that's the truck that you're driving now, right? We got to see it in Houston this year. No, Dallas.
Yes.
We saw it in Dallas this year.
Yeah. A dirty.
That thing's a beast.
How did Anita keep quiet about it for 2 weeks, waiting for you to say, "Hey, honey, thank you. That's really sweet"?
My wife has tremendous self-discipline. She just found it funny. That's just who she is. Yeah, she wasn't going to say anything until I did.
That's so great. That is so great. I can't believe 2 weeks. That's a long ass time. But then what I'm curious of is that, I don't know how in your car you have settings that are built for you, and your sitting position, and Apple CarPlay or whatever the fuck you use on your technology on your truck. How did you not, she would have had to set everything up for you to a point where it was flawless?
Well, that's the thing. I'm completely technophobic. I mean, you've seen me in the office trying to work my phone. I don't set any of that stuff up. The Apple CarPlay, and I had no idea how to sync things, and so everything was normal. doing the truck. Nothing actually worked, which is the way that I prefer it.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about kind of your decision to come over to the LIV Golf League as part of our broadcast team, especially after you've seen Jerry Foltz's name on that list. I am curious to kind of hear, because we haven't really heard from you in terms of your decision to come over. What made you decide that was something you wanted to do, especially after being in all the bigger networks for such a long time, and taking that risk to come over and be part of our broadcast team?
Yeah. Well, there's obviously the money side of it was terrific, and but it was something that I'd wanted to do, because when I thought about it for a little while, well, I didn't think about it for very long. Greg called me, and I basically said yes. But I've covered all 4 major championships. I've covered the President's Cup, the World Cup, the Ryder Cup, pretty much every tournament on the PGA Tour, either at NBC or at CBS. The Summer Games in Rio and Tokyo. Hell, NBC sent me to the Winter Games in Korea for some unknown reason. So this was something that I'd never done. I've never had the chance to be lead analyst. I knew and loved Foltz. I knew Keith Hirschland and had worked with Keith before. It was a very easy thing, to come across, and it's been the most fun I've had in nearly 30 years in the broadcast industry.
What's fun about it? What's fun about it for you?
It's the people that make it fun. It's kind of like the early CBS days, where there were, the marketing people and the sales guys were out with us quite a lot, and silly dinners, and it's just, it's the people that when we go to a hotel, it can be the nicest hotel or whatever, but if the people in it aren't nice, then it's not a nice experience. Great people make great hotels, and it's the same thing in the broadcast industry. I've been very lucky over the last 30 years to have worked with some of the greatest and funniest and best-hearted people imaginable. It's a great business to be in. It's very hard to be an asshole in this business
and stay around very long. Absolutely.
You talk about the couple, NBC as well as CBS. You've covered, I guess, traditional golf for basically your entire career, and then you came over. I believe you joined us the week of Bedminster in 2022. That was your first event. You sat in that chair, and for those people who might not know, we showed the most live shots, right? Credit to our producer, Keith Hirschland. We showed the most live shots on any broadcast. Plus, then we had the pace of play. I mean, it was a shotgun start. There was no cut. There were team names that you had no idea about. All these things that were just so different from what you were used to doing. And then you came over and you sat in that chair in a very first event. What was going through your mind as we were going through the broadcast on your very first round?
Well, the very first thing that I said on the air, I actually I inhaled a fly, and I had a pill stuck in the back of my throat at the same time. So it was basically me gagging, for about 15 seconds, and then having an incredible involuntary coughing fit.
I thought he was dying. I thought you were going to die right there on set. I handed you a Red Bull. I thought that would help. I was going to get up and Heimlich you.
Yeah, give me the Heimlich. Yeah,
that would have been something.
Yeah, it was an inauspicious start, but it was it was a great experience, and I felt that I was on a pirate ship. That's what it felt like to me, and all the players had taken this leap of faith, the broadcasters, the officials, the media. It felt like we were all on this pirate ship that we weren't quite sure where we were going, but we were going to pillage something when we got there. And the camaraderie between the players and the officials and the broadcast media, and the access that we have to the players is unlike, and the fact that they're all thrown together to start with, with the shotgun start, which I was skeptical about at first, but it puts them all in the same place at the same time, whether it's on the practice tee or in the clubhouse afterwards or on the golf course, and I think it's made for a bond, that you don't see in any other tour.
Early this year, the very first event of the year, and we don't know where things are going to end up. I think we all think we have an idea. We think there'll be some kind of peaceful coexistence in the near future. We don't know. I'm not sure it's necessary from either side, but I think it helps both sides if there is one. But earlier this year, when in the darkness, when Waco won at Mayakoba, first event of the year, and he did that interview with Dom that got so much play, Dom, I don't even remember what the first question was. It was good. And Waco says, I can't even get in to the majors. We went off the air that day, and you said unequivocally, Joaquin Niemann will be in the Masters. That was such a seemingly far reach for me, but you were convinced. And as it turns out, it was true. Why were you so convinced of that?
Well, I mean, the Masters in particular, I mean, they just want the best field that they can get. Traditionally, they've always done that. And I believed in them as much as I believed in Waco, that, common sense would prevail. And, I mean, that was really it. I mean, I couldn't imagine a Masters tournament without Waco, the way that he had been playing.
Fair enough.
Speaking of looking forward and maybe having everything in the crystal ball, we as Jerry said, we don't have that crystal ball. But you obviously played in the 1991 Ryder Cup, and there's been a lot of speculation about the Ryder Cup, especially the upcoming one. King Bradley being, obviously chair of that, in terms of putting his best players forward. With what's happening in the world and what's been, revealed in the last year or so. What are your speculations or maybe even predictions of the Ryder Cup for both sides, the European team as well as the U.S. team?
Well, both sides want to put out their best 12 players. And, again, I hope that common sense prevails. The world rankings are completely irrelevant. I think DJ is like 700th in the world or something. So, I mean, Keegan is a common guy, and I would that he doesn't buckle under any kind of pressure, from people that would say, these guys don't deserve to be on the team. I mean, there are players, that we have, Brooks and Bryson and Patrick Reed, who just love the Ryder Cup. And that's what the Ryder Cup is about. It's about love. It's about nothing else except, it's like the Stanley Cup in hockey. It's not about money for these players. It's not about anything but touching the cup. It's the purest form of the game. And I'm hoping that, our players are taken into serious consideration because, with DJ and the other guys that I've mentioned, there are others, that deserve to be a part of that club. That it's not that many players get to experience that, a Ryder Cup atmosphere. And I hope our guys do.
When you've covered a lot of Ryder Cups, played in one, I've covered 3 or 4 of them with you. And the one thing that makes me, and I say this a lot, and I'm going to get criticized for it, but that's fine. I prefer the Solheim Cup to the Ryder Cup because it's the same love that you speak of, without the acrimony from the home crowd. And the Ryder Cup has just gone off the charts. And Bethpage is going to be insufferable from that standpoint. I mean, insufferable. If they haven't priced the idiots out of the market at $750 a ticket. If and when there is a truce agreement or a unity between LIV and PGA Tour, I don't think there's any argument that the first statement of that should be a scheduled Ryder Cup type format between LIV and the PGA Tour. What do you think? How do you think? I mean, that would set ratings benchmarks that would rival perhaps even the Ryder Cup. What do you think that crowd would be like, depending on where it's played?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're just a different product. in the golf viewing market. So, wherever I go, and I'm with you guys, you see the same reaction from crowds. They love the experience, that LIV Golf puts out. So I can't imagine, there'd be animosity amongst the crowd. And with the kind of media, that has been intensely critical about us, you might, see people like that, trying to provoke. But I don't think that they'd be successful. I mean, that'd just be a great experiment in modern day golf.
Yeah, I would certainly watch it. Shit, it would be awesome.
We'll have a Ryder Cup between our broadcast team and the NBC broadcast team, their Ryder Cup team. I don't think we'd win, but we'd sure have fun.
Oh dear God!
I don't know.
We would win. No, the strongest play. Look, we have
but
Arlo.
they have Bones and John Wood, so they're not exactly superstar golfers. So we'd have a chance. Yeah,
I would actually practice. I would start practicing if we ever had that.
That would rapidly degenerate into a drinking.
Well, you'd
contest.
be our driver.
I think we'd win that comfortably.
Well, I think all we need is we have Jerry, we have Don, and we have Arlo. That's all we need. I don't even have to consume an alcoholic beverage, I think, for us to win our competition. I think we would win that by a mile.
Yeah, we got some pros.
Hey, I love talking to you, when we're at dinners and stuff, and I often love listening. I think you have such a great skill and just the storytelling, the way you tell stories, it's just phenomenal. And I think one of my favorite stories is about Seve. If you can do us the favor of telling the audience as well, who are listening in, that story that you told me about your experience with Seve when you were playing with him and against him.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're talking of a few stories about Seve, but we were the first time I ever played with him was in Caen in the south of France, and for some reason I had the honor on the second tee, which was a par 3, about a 4-iron up the hill, and there were about 1,500 French people milling around the tee, smoking and being rude to each other, just practicing. And they had no idea who I was. They were there to watch the great man. But I got up. Seve was he was always in your personal space. He was one of those guys, and he was impatient with it as well. And he'd be clearing his throat and jingling his change or playing with his nuts in his pocket, and moving his feet around, just the gamesmanship was in a different level with Seve, and you saw that, throughout the years in the Ryder Cup. But I had teed it up on the far side of the tee to try and stay away from him. And I get up and I clean shank a 4-iron, and I'm on my follow through, and it was one of those shanks that felt perfect, felt like it came right out of the middle of the club face. And I'm still on my follow through, and I smell garlic, and I turn around, and he's right there. He's right, in my space with the club and his glove on with the ball on the tee, and he's ready to go. And I still don't know where the ball is gone. And the next thing we hear, it hits a tree in front of the 17th green, and now it's vanished again. And, just like a second later, we hear, and it lands behind us, both on the tee. And Seve looks at the ball, and he looks at me. He's still 6 inches from my face, and he says, "I'm sorry, you're away." It was one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me in the golf course, to have to get up and hit that one.
Hey, Feherty, before we let you go, I need to hear your funniest Rodney story. Rodney, of course, your longtime caddy who he led a intriguing life, it seems.
Rodney was he worked for me for 13 years, and he was the single most useless human being I've ever known. But he loved me. He was my great friend, and he was so entertaining on the golf course. I remember sharing a room with him in Sardinia, off the coast of Italy, playing the Italian Open down there. And we were in this brand new hotel, and I had a little balcony, whatever. And I woke up one morning and Rodney, who I didn't know at the time, or rather I didn't know about him, he was a sleepwalker. And Rodney is peeing off the balcony. I didn't realize that he was asleep at the time. So I get up and, like I tap him and say, you shouldn't wake up a sleepwalker. I hit him a slap on the side of the head because he's peeing on a table. There's a German family down below, and they've got, grandmothers and granddads and fathers and mothers and children and God knows cousins, whatever. There's about 12 of them, big circular tech by the swimming pool, and Rodney is peeing on them. So I drag him back into the room, and wake him up, and I said, what the hell are you doing? I go, no, I don't know. Next thing, there's banging on the door, and it's the manager of the hotel with this very irate German gentleman standing behind him, and Rodney is in the bathroom at this stage. I said, look, we are so sorry, but my friend here, I'm sharing a room with, he sleepwalks, and he thought he was in the bathroom. And so I kind of calmed the situation down. But I said to Rodney, once I closed the door, and I said, you have got to go down, and apologize to these people. It's the only way that we're going to get through this, without getting thrown out of the hotel. Oh, right. I said, get a bottle of champagne, with some orange juice. And just go and just apologize to them. So by the time Rodney gets downstairs, he's going to have Moët and Chandon champagne and a jar of orange juice from the bar, whatever, and he goes in. But they've reseated this entire family in a kind of a conservatory, where they've got these wicker sofas, long ways, and like a long table that they're all sitting around. And Rodney goes and he says, listen, I'm terribly sorry. I was sleepwalking, and I'd like you to have this as a gesture of just as an apologetic gesture, And he put the champagne down on the table and sat down on the sofa beside the grandmother and killed their chihuahua, stone dead. He sat on the dog. Rodney was about 270, he sat on a 5-pound dog and killed it stone dead. It was and then it just turned into bedlam. I gave up. I was standing in the hallway watching this. I just shook my head and walked off. I don't know how he survived that incident, but that was just one of the things that, looking back on it was funny. It wasn't particularly funny
not for the
time.
dog, that's for sure. Or those who love the dog.
No,
horrible.
not
You can't possibly make up a story like that. That's what is so incredible about it. Yeah.
No.
Wow.
No, that's awesome. All right. Well, David, we won't want to hold you back any longer, but I do have one final question for you to wrap up this conversation. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I still am. Even though we work together, I'm still a big fan of yours. I'm curious to hear, what is the best advice that you've been given throughout your career as a golfer, or as a broadcaster, or even just as a human being? What's the best advice you've been given?
The best advice that I was ever given, and it applies to life as well as golf, was from a friend of mine called Alan Fine, who was a sports psychologist back in London. And I was at the end of my career, and it was only the beginning. I was so in such a slump, that I thought I got to find something else to do. And Alan taught me to live in the present. There's a philosophical principle called Occam's razor, in that, and it means simply that if there are several things that are kind of equal, the simplest is the best solution. And if you can say you're standing over a 6-foot putt, if you've got the courage to make it equally acceptable, whether you miss it or whether you make it, if you can make those two possibilities equally acceptable and be genuine about it, and actually believe that sincerely, well, then you create a space for yourself, an environment in which you can actually go ahead and, make your best effort at it. Because, it's the fear of missing, and sometimes it's the fear of success that gets players into trouble. And, I've found, and you have to live in the present to do that. You have to just, be in the space that you occupy, and make those two things equally acceptable, because that's what great players do in any sport. Michael Jordan, when he was going up for that fadeaway jumper, wasn't thinking about missing or making. He was concentrated on the physical act of doing, and being in that space, in that time. So I think that was the best advice I ever got.
I love it. I love it. Very, very cool. David, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for, as Jerry likes to put it, peeling the layers of the onions with us. We really appreciate you. We miss you. We can't wait for the 2025 season to start till we all are back together as one happy family.
How long?
Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, David. How long until you get out of that chair now when we hang up?
I'm going to go to my machine shop
and
do a little metal work.
Yeah. David, one of the rifles he builds are extremely coveted, obviously handcrafted by David Feherty, but he donated one to a friend of mine's charity. It's called Freedom Hunters. And it went for a whole boatload of money at their charity auction. I know you do that a lot, so thanks for that. Thanks for your time as well, and looking forward to seeing you, but it's not going to be soon enough. Still another 2 months.
Have a great afternoon and a good off season, and we'll see you in 2025 at least in physical being.
All right, take care, buddy.
All right.
I gotta see that machine shop sometime. He absolutely loves doing that. He loves building. He loves firearms. He's a big proponent of sporting firearms, and he even packs his own bullets. I mean, that's serious. That's really serious. Yeah.
I know. I think that's like his form of I guess therapy is putting a beautiful firearm together, as you say, with his very unique stamp on it. So man, I tell you what, I still till today, I know I'm a lot younger than you.
Remind me every single week.
It took us a whole hour. Yes, it took us a whole hour before I even reminded you that was the case. But I grew up watching him and his show that was on NBC and even his commentary throughout his career, and I am and was just such a big fan of his. So when I found out that he was going to be part of the broadcast team, I literally actually freaked out. I was on the phone with our bosses. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. No way. Like, I'm going to get to have an experience working with Feherty. Like, that was so cool. And now to be able to work alongside him and he's really helped me personally a lot, with my craft, and he's given me some great advice, some great feedback that till today I'm still trying to get better at. And he's always been so generous, I think with number one, his time, but also advice that he's given to not just myself, but I'm sure to everybody else on our broadcast
I've known
team.
him for a little bit longer than you have, because as you continue to mention, I'm so old. But I remember the first time I worked with him, and it was like so unpretentious, so generous. Been to dinner with him many times before he even joined LIV, and he's just Feherty. He's just as genuine as it gets. Everybody knows he's witty and he's funny, and he's that way on the air, always has been. And that, that's kind of what built the legend of Feherty, the golf commentator. But he's also one of the most insightful golf commentators out there. A lot of times it goes unnoticed because you're waiting for the next funny line. You don't realize what he just said about the golf that is like, whoa, yeah, you see it from a different perspective sometimes. That makes you lean forward, as our bosses like to say. you know, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I love spending time with him, and he's just a wealth of information.
No, he's so well
not
read.
just about golf, but
Yeah.
you know, he loves reading. Yeah, so well read. He's, you know, loves reading about history, and he's always got so many, like, when you start actually talking to him, he's got all these like depth of information. It's fascinating, and he's definitely he's funny to be around. I think my favorite comment from him this year was well, we were in Australia, and there was a granny shack, and I was literally walking past it because I was at Cam's group, and he goes, "Oh, look, it's a granny shack," and then it's just pause, and then he goes, "Oh, well, one of those grannies needs some shaving or something along those lines." I don't want to kill the joke, but I was laughing, and I'm sure people that were walking with that group would probably, people don't know what I'm listening to, right? I'm just in tears, like crying, laughing, and just I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk for like 10 minutes. I was just at the giggles.
I was watching it. I wasn't on the show, I don't think. I was watching one. He was on, it was with CBS, or maybe it was NBC. He was in the tower somewhere. And one of the players hits it left. One bounces right up into the guy's nuggets. I mean, just right up into the guy's balls. And it hurt. The guy, I mean, bent over, doubled over. Of course it hurts. And, you know, most people would make, if they're trying to be funny, they'd say, "Oh, you should have yelled 2 instead of 4, some old cliche like that." David just says, "Oh, you caught him in the Twins bullpen." I'm like, that's just genius. And it just comes to him. He's just that genuinely funny on the fly.
I know. He's had so many too. He's had so many great one-liners, even just this season. So many. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. Always so cool to get to speak to David Feherty. But hey, if you love this podcast, please do subscribe. We're back on the LIV Golf YouTube page. Fair to Heaven. You can find all the episodes there. We've spoken to so many great guests. You can catch up whenever you want and whoever you like to listen to. Also, we have our very own social channels at FDH_LIV Golf. We're on X, we're on Instagram, and we're on the TikTok. So do follow us there and like us and leave us your comments. And if you love it, please do share it with your friends. And you can find us wherever you get the podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or wherever you consume your podcast, Foltz. Pleasure as always.
Thanks.
Safe driving.
Safe
Enjoy
travels.
your time with Karen.
Safe travels.
Send my
to
love
you and Casey
to
back
the
home to
fam.
Singapore tomorrow. That's not the easiest flight in the world. Why are we being nice to each other? Yeah,
I don't know. It's
sober.
very uncomfortable. Anywho.
Yes. Take care. I'll see you next Tuesday or Wednesday or Monday or whenever it is.